Mine, because if you hadn't noticed, you've got bigger fish to fry. Now, is there anything else? Because my toilets are blocked on 3rd floor.
No, we're good. And I'm sorry about Jack. I know he can be a handful sometimes.
Yeah. Just like his dad, eh? I'll be thinking of you later.
Ta.
You're the worst.
No, you're the worst.
The talk of the street.
Talk of the street.
The talk of the street.
Talk of the street.
The talk of the street.
Talk of the street.
The talk of the street.
Talk of the street.
Hello and welcome to episode 352 of The Talk of the Street, an unofficial Coronation Street catch-up podcast that doesn't approve of this movement to a Saturday morning podcast. I'm Gavin.
And I have a sore throat.
Oh dear. Well, we just stop here then.
So, don't expect too much from me today. I don't expect...
In general or...
In general.
Okay.
You know, I mean, my righteous indignation at things that occurred in this show this week may be a little toned down, which some viewers might appreciate.
Or listeners even.
Yes. Because you can't view us.
If there's any viewers, we really need to improve security around here.
We have the shade drawn. There's no way. Unless there's a camera behind
You'd be surprised.
Daniel Craig's eyes in that poster.
Well, normally I would ask how you are.
Yeah, I have a sore throat. And I'm exhausted because work was exhausting this week.
It was a busy week this week.
It was busy.
I was working late and early.
And I was working early and late. Cataloging Andy Warhol books.
I don't even have the energy to press that button.
Don't even bother. Don't even bother. It's fine.
Watch and talk.
Watch and talk. There you go. And that's it. That's all the audio talk. We did go and clear out some really great art and stuff from a house, and that was really exciting. But it cut into my work from home day, so I had to have a different work from home day this past week, and that was not exciting. Because if there's one thing that I love, it's routine.
That's why this feels so alien right now.
Yes, but also it's better that we're doing it than if we didn't do it. And
I
took a
was
week
sorely
off.
tempted because this week isn't great.
It's not. And that's kind of why we have to do this.
Well, I had a bad week, which started off badly on Sunday when I accidentally shaved my beard off.
Accidentally.
It was accidental. My beard trimmer has a guard on it, and I must have taken the guard off to clear all the stubble out of it.
Yeah, but
And
when
by
you...
putting it back on again, I must have pushed it all the way down. So, and normally I start off trimming my beard under my chin in an area that's not noticeable.
Right.
If I fuck it up.
Right.
But for some reason I went straight to the moustache. So I shaved half the moustache off. And then you're like saying, well, you should have just kept it at that.
Stopped.
I'm not walking about with half a fucking moustache.
Or you could have just done the done the moustache and that's it.
Oh, no. That chin strap thing, no thank you. And I wasn't prepared to be walking about
Yes,
like
thank you.
Like a punk in a 80s movie set in the future.
I don't think you have enough hair for
It
that.
got off to a bad start, and then there was a tornado warning,
Yes.
and it was
We had
downhill
to
from there.
hide in the basement with the dog who did not appreciate it. It's like, I know I'm not
That one
supposed to. I know I'm not supposed to be down here. Why did you people bring me down here?
Nobody said that he can't go down there. He just never goes down there.
Well, yeah, because
He doesn't do stairs very well.
he
Did you
shouldn't.
notice him? He wasn't happy going downstairs.
No,
His wee legs are too short. Anyway,
and his body's too round
and long.
and long for his short legs.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, and we couldn't find the cats, but they were safe.
All right, shall we preamble, my dear?
Yes, please.
Give us some of that crappy Corrie news.
How'd you know?
History.
Reese Dinsdale is returning to Coronation Street after 15 years and after his character in the show, Gail's fourth husband, died accidentally when he tried to pretend to kill himself
He
for
succeeded.
insurance purposes. Yes. But this time he's behind the camera instead of in front of the camera. He's going to be directing some episodes.
Yeah, he does this quite regularly.
Yeah. Shut up. And he's on Blue Sky, by the way, so we should follow him on Blue Sky.
We don't, because he didn't follow us back.
Oh. Well, how could he follow us back if we don't follow him?
Because we followed him on Twitter.
Oh. Well, Blue Sky's different. There's fewer people there, so who knows?
No, I generally like his direction because he does it quite a bit.
Yeah. Well, not
But-
always.
No, not always. I didn't say always, but he does it quite a bit. And he typically has quite an unusual approach. So you get nice different angles and stuff, which I think we saw some of this week.
Coronation Street was not on Friday this past week. It was on Thursday. And people cursed the sport for taking away their Coronation Street yet again.
Cursed the sport even more because it was women's football this time.
Oh, yeah. How dare they? How
The
dare
ladies'
they?
sports ball.
The ladies' sports ball. It's funny because, we're in the middle of March Madness, even though it's now April. And the only college team I support that's still in it, who's going to the national championship game, is the Yukon ladies. The Yukon Huskies. All the Yukon dudes were out like really quick. And then the MSU dudes were out in the Elite Eight. And I don't even know about the Spartan ladies. Wasn't even following. Anyway, baseball's back.
That's an enthusiastic item of news.
Baseball's back, and I'm very excited about that. And finally, Barbara Knox has been on the show for 33 years, and she's not going anywhere, as she has recently signed a new contract to stay on the soap past her 92nd birthday,
Oofed.
which means she'll be around, knock on wood, for the 65th anniversary celebrations later this year. And that's Corrie News.
I don't know why they get actors of that age to sign contracts, especially when they're not on it that often.
Right, yeah.
They feel, Ken's been on it a little bit more recently, but Rita's very fleetingly used in the
Correct.
in the Rovers or whatever, just for a couple of scenes or so.
If I'm 92 and I'm still working, even in a job I love that I really enjoy, just shoot me. Just shoot me because I cannot be stopped.
Oh,
And I must be stopped.
you must be stopped, and that's Corrie News,
And that's Corrie News.
which leads us
I've killed and I'll kill again. Ants.
breaking at 11 or
Spiders.
8:25 in the morning.
Cockroaches.
Oh, here's a feedback section. Fuck it. Wendy writes in, I'm not understanding how I'm supposed to feel with the whole Joel's baby story. I blame the writing under the director, but it's kind of creepy. Was I missing something?
No, it's creepy.
They treated Dee Dee differently because of the colour of her skin. Talk about left field. I like to say I can usually pick up on what this show is throwing at me, but I didn't see that coming. I did pick up on the lack of staffing and neglect, but it looked like that it was the hospital just running badly. And I agree with that, apart from one item.
Right.
There was
yes.
an item where the doctor or the nurse says,
Oh,
you're strong, your type are strong, or your people are strong, or something like that.
You were built for this.
Mm-hmm.
And that's fucked up.
And that is fucked up. The rest of it, though, was just
And
people being rude and people being
rushed
too
off
busy
their feet, yes.
and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So I think if they're wanting to go down the road that they're going to go down,
Yeah.
I think it should have been more overt than that one or two instances.
And the fact
they
that
said, here's your clan as well. And that, I guess, could be interpreted fairly ickily, but also there's a way of interpreting that that's not.
Right. Well, round here, clan would be interpreted in a completely different way. And it would be shocking to see the Baileys come in after somebody says the word, here's your clan. But anyway. And the
Thankfully, it's not set round about here, though.
Yes. And the fact that the only nurse that seemed to give a damn was the black one.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that they make, I mean, we're going to get to this.
Yeah, it felt clumsy.
The fact that they make Dee Dee talk like a kindergartner.
And really, that is the only reason we're recording this week.
Yes.
Is so you can talk about that.
Yes.
So look forward to that. Mm-hmm. No rights. Grammar gone bad. Did Ronnie actually say, take Jack his boots in? Was that in the script? Doesn't anyone check these things for murdering the English language? Noello contender.
Guess what, Noel? It's a little too late to save the English language at this point.
How would you rewrite that? Take Jack his boots in.
Take in Jack's boots. But then you have Jack boots right next to each other, and that's
not great.
That's not great. That's up there with the clan.
Did someone say to Jack this week that he didn't have a leg to stand on?
I believe they did.
I was trying to find it again because that's the sort of shit that I clip. And I couldn't find it again. I'm pretty sure it was on Thursdays.
Yeah, it was during the whole police thing.
Right.
That like the lady said, something about you don't have a leg to stand on, or,
Because that does mean it's official. They have forgotten that it's got an artificial leg.
Or something along the lines of you have to stand on your own 2 feet or something like that.
I'm sure it was a leg to stand on.
But I did hear it as well, and it was hilarious.
I was like, did I dream that? Am I dreaming about Coronation Street now? Because that's a sign to stop doing this. If I'm dreaming about Coronation Street. Because it's most of the time, it's kind of bad enough watching it.
I've had dreams in which characters from Coronation Street appear, and typically they're mad at me.
Don't think it takes a psychiatrist to get to the bottom of that.
Last one was Carla.
Well, that's fun.
She was not happy with me.
Fiona writes, I'm really struggling to figure out what STC stands for. Segregated Teenage Criminals, Stabby Teenager College. Does the show address this? And to prove that Mr. Osborne is an absolute fanny, I teach bad lads of the same age, and not one of them has ever seen an episode of The Sopranos. They're not 40.
No. And that's one of my complaints. And I have many with this whole Daniel trying to get kids interested in Shakespeare using The Sopranos. Mm-hmm. One of the many reasons why I hate it.
Yeah, it's like trying to get them interested in Shakespeare by teaching them about Thomas Hardy.
As opposed to Tom Hardy,
right,
who they actually know.
Even that's probably a reference that's getting a little bit old.
I don't know, not with Venom around.
Yeah, because everybody loves Venom.
Teenage boys do.
I'm sure. No, SDC stands for...
Delicious.
No, it does not stand for delicious. It stands for Secure Training Centre. But I prefer Fiona's suggestions. Stabby Teenager College might be what we have to call it now. And finally, Cheeky writes in, a lot of what bothered me was the way that Dee Dee was treated in the hospital. The nurses and doctors were very stereotypical with their comments toward her, and she was having the baby, not to mention the breach that happened much later on. I definitely think that as a character, they haven't nurtured Dee Dee's friendships enough, specifically with Alia, and even in some cases Sarah. Finally got our through line with Jack and Hope, considering that he has always been her crush. But isn't there a significant age gap between them though? I don't think that they're in the same year, so it makes the whole thing a little bit creepy how much she likes him. Hoping for better next week. Well, as far as their ages are concerned, believe it or not, there is only 3 months between the two of them. They were both born in 2010.
Yes.
Yeah, they're closer in age than you would think.
Right.
And I think it's because Jack
is so tall.
Looks like he's in his 40s.
Yes. And also, this is the show that gave us Summer and Daniel, so...
Summer and Daniel?
Remember when Summer had a huge crush on Daniel?
Oh, no, yes.
Yeah.
But that was
And that is actually creepy.
Mm.
Especially since Daniel just plowed ahead and did not recognize the fact that it was going on because he's an idiot.
Hey, feedback's always welcome.
Yeah,
Thank you to Cheeky, to Fiona, to Noel, and to Wendy this
Thanks,
week.
dudes.
We very much appreciate it. It's always welcome. Send us your thoughts, and I'll probably read them out. Get us at thetalkofthestreet@gmail.com, or our DMs are open at Corrie Podcast. We love it when people write actual letters to us. Send your proper mail to The Talk of the Street, P.O. Box 12, Eaton Rapids, Michigan, 48827. I checked it this week, and there was correspondence for another gentleman.
In our box?
And his car's warranty.
Oh, in our box.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I never know what to do with that.
Well, it's throw it away.
That's typically what I do with it, but I think that's a felony, isn't it?
It's junk mail. It's like, pre-sorted, so it's fine.
Please note that we reserve the right to edit feedback, even about car warranties.
Yes.
But only in the interests
And venom.
Of brevity. You just want to say delicious again. On you go.
No, I don't.
On you go.
But I'm actually quite proud of that. That sounded like spot on. That was really good, wasn't it?
Do it again.
I don't think I could do it again. It was good, though. Just admit it was good. And then we can move on.
It was the best I've ever heard you do it.
Okay.
And now let's podcast for coffee. Thank you to Amy and Caroline Metcalf for our coffees this week. They're right. You probably remember us after your glitter bomb last Christmas. I am still picking pieces of glitter out of the
our
carpet.
Teeth.
And, well, not so much our teeth. And here we are in April. And the coffee we have shouted you over the years. Of course we remember you guys.
Yes, of course.
I'm Amy Zant. She's in Virginia Beach and I live on the Gold Coast in Queensland.
Yes,
but we both,
we love that Christmas card. It's one of my favorites.
But we are both originally from
It's
Cork.
right.
It's right there.
It's still here.
And you
Santa
can
the
see
surfboard.
the glitter falling from it. Don't open it up.
No, look, it's hilarious because you're right. There's still glitter
I
on
know.
the inside of this card. Stuck to it.
And now it's all over the desk again.
It's fine. It's my side. It's fine.
But we are both originally from Cork in Ireland and connected by love to Corrie and T. Not only are we super fans of Corrie, we visited the set in 2022 and have photographic evidence to prove it. We are fanatics of your podcast, so long story short, I'm about to celebrate a milestone birthday and my beautiful niece Amy did not disappoint with her choice of gift to mark the occasion. It's the world's coolest teapot, and it's a teapot shaped like the Rovers.
Oh, that is pretty cool.
It reminds me of your TARDIS teapot a little bit.
Yes. My TARDIS or my Darth Vader one, because although that's not a building, that's a person.
Yeah, that doesn't remind me of that at all. I don't know if I can really make tea in it as I'm too scared. Yeah, I don't think you're meant to make tea in these things. There's even a cat on the roof. We love you both. We drink a lot of tea. And if you ever come to Australia, then the tea's on me.
Duly noted.
Yeah, keep that in mind.
Yes.
Keep up the good work from Caroline and Amy Metcalf. Thank you so much for...
Especially duly noted if you can find us jobs there.
Yep.
Canada may not be far enough away.
If you need someone to wrangle a spreadsheet.
Or if you need someone to sell your dead gay uncle's things.
When you whispering?
Because my throat's sore.
Yeah, which was evident when you said delicious.
Delicious!
Oh, there we go. It wasn't as good that
It wasn't
time.
as good that time.
Thank you very much to Caroline and Amy Metcalf for our coffees this week. We very much appreciate it. The Talk of the Street is and will always be free on your podcast provider and on the YouTubes, but if you think our show is worth anything more than the time it takes to listen to it and you want to show your appreciation, you can blah, 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 blah. Remember, you can always support the podcast for free and get us in front of you listeners by liking, subscribing, rating and reviewing wherever you get your podcasts. All right, shall we dive in, my dear? The first story this week is, Sister, Can You Spare a Baby? Racist Kelly is at the hospital with Dee Dee, worried about Frankie, who's about to get his transplant or whatever it was that he was needing. She wishes that Max was there for some reason. Dee Dee isn't offended. She's a little offended.
She's a little offended.
Eventually, Racist Kelly remembers to ask Dee Dee how she's getting on with her pregnancy, and Dee Dee says that she's fine, but then she doubles up, blaming Tony Braxton. But Racist Kelly insists that she gets checked out. I made this joke last week and you just ignored it. This week it gets a laugh.
Braxton Hicks are nothing to joke about, sir.
Unchain my uterus. She's in the right place, and her experience gets off to a rocky start when the nurse gets her name wrong and then apologises too much about it, because I think what is insinuated here is that there is another black person on the maternity
and
ward.
that all black people look the same. Yes, when I went in for my colonoscopy, the wrong name was on the chart above me. So the first nurse who came in said, "Oh, you're here for an endoscopy and a colonoscopy? And I was like, no, not this time, because they had the wrong name on there. So this is something that does happen. But yeah, this particular, in the show, it did seem like they were kind of insinuating that this white lady thinks that all black people look alike.
Yeah.
But it was maybe too subtle. Maybe we could have seen another black lady in the background in that room, and there were none.
Or for the nurse to start to explain and then realise
What
and then
she'd
stop
say, yeah.
explaining. Because the apologies just sounded like she forgot her lines a little bit.
Right.
Which, of course, she hadn't.
No.
After a couple of questions, the nurse reckons it's the Braxton Hicks again and sends her home prescribing a bath and scented candles, and then complaining to a colleague about the lack of agency staff. And there is a nub of the problem. There's not enough people.
Right. Which is understandable and something that is a problem with the NHS currently. And also over here, this is a problem, with understaffing in medical things. So it's weird that they're trying to balance both things in a single story. Like they're like,
this is called hedging your bets, I think.
Right. Like they really want to address discrimination, but they also don't want to offend the NHS.
Yeah, they don't want to give the NHS too much of a kicking.
Right.
So
because too many right-wing people are kicking the NHS anyway for other things.
It was like, remember in the midst of COVID,
right?
There was a NHS storyline going on, and they had to be very careful about it because everyone was standing outside their door at 8 o'clock applauding the NHS and then stepping inside to watch Coronation Street going on about how shit it is was ill-judged.
And yet, not a single character on Coronation Street caught coronavirus.
Back home, though, and Dee Dee is still in pain and doesn't think that she's ready for this. She goes for that bath, but then her waters break all over the floor. Luckily, Alia's there to call the Bailey men over to help.
Yeah.
James takes a deep breath at the thought of becoming a dad.
And Michael...
You're really becoming an uncle here, pal.
Right, well... And Michael calls for towels and warm water because that's what they do in the movies, because that joke hasn't been outplayed enough. Come on, guys.
I still thought it was quite funny just to see how useless they were.
Lazy.
Meanwhile, in case anyone gives a fuck, Frankie's transplant has been a huge success.
Oh, that's good.
Back at the hospital, Dee Dee has been left to fend for herself while some delivery emergencies are going on. A nurse telling Dee Dee that she's strong and she's built for this, whatever that means.
Right.
None of this is helped by no one knowing who she is and there not being a bed for her.
Now, this is the hospital her mother worked at, correct?
Yep.
If I know nurses, and I do, they would know Dee Dee. They would remember Dee Dee's mum. They would be asking how her mom is, and they would be taking better care of her than anyone else in that hospital because they knew her mom. And yet, the show seems to have decided just to completely erase the fact that Dee Dee and James and Michael have a mother to begin with. I've seen a lot of complaints about this, especially, that her mother would be there, in this sort of situation. And they're correct. And, they gave James a new head. They should be able to give Aggie a new head as well, even if it's just for the storyline. You know what I'm saying?
It is Aggie Erasure.
It is Aggie Erasure.
Aggie Erasure.
And that's why we're listening to Erasure?
Yep.
Okay.
And that'll get us demonetised.
Yeah. Too bad it wasn't Young Fu Erasure. Or
come on. 8:42 in the morning.
Or Wang Chung Erasure. That's what I was going for. Because everybody needs to Wang Chung tonight.
You didn't?
No, I watched To Live and Die in LA this week, so I have Wang Chung in my head.
She eventually gets a room, but her blood pressure is through the fucking roof.
Yeah, seriously.
And the doctor orders that baby to get out of that womb right now.
Yep.
Later, the C-sections went well and mother and baby are doing fine apparently. It's a girl. And later, a nurse brings the baby in and basically demands that Dee Dee get some skin-on-skin time with her, even though it's the last thing Dee Dee wants.
And breastfeed the child.
The nurse calls Dee Dee aggressive when Dee Dee calmly says that that's not part of the plan. So
Right.
Dee Dee's trying to say to her, look, I'm giving this baby up for adoption.
Well, she does not say that.
She doesn't say it.
I kind of wish she had.
I really wish that she had. But even if she didn't, is it the nurse's job to force this to happen? I'm not sure that it is.
I mean, typically with especially with a first time mom, a nurse will be there to, to assist in the first breastfeeding and help you latch and all that stuff. So it's not unusual, but it is unusual for a clearly stated plan of not breastfeeding to just be totally ignored and for a nurse to basically shame a mother into doing it. Mm-hmm. If it is in your plan, then, yeah, I mean.
Luckily, she's rescued by the other Baileys and Dee Dee can fob the kid off on James. Exhausted, Dee Dee asks for pain meds, says that she's feeling wet down there.
I'm wet down there.
And that the nurse tells her that she just needs some rest.
Are you not allowed to say the word vagina on national television in the United Kingdom?
No, I think you're. I think
I would
8 o'clock you're probably fine.
Right. Yes. This is a grown adult woman, an attorney at law who is well spoken. She would not say, "I feel wet down there."
Well, she might be embarrassed saying it in front of her whole family, but I guess she's just given birth. She's not really embarrassed about anything at this point.
Right. Yes. Yeah. Typically, that's like the least private moment of your life. Mm-hmm. But Dee Dee would be specific, I feel, in a situation like this. Like, it feels like I'm bleeding from my vagina. I'm very damp and uncomfortable. Can you please help me? Mm-hmm. And the nurse doesn't even check until Dee Dee passes out. And it's like, if a patient tells you that it feels like they're bleeding, which is essentially what she's saying, while talking like a 3-year-old, you
for the listeners,
you check.
Helen just rolled her eyes. The most I've ever seen her roll her eyes.
You check. You don't just poo-poo them. It's I don't know. I have been, as you know, I have been in situations like this where nurses and doctors kind of poo-poo me. When I had Stelly, who nearly killed me, and I went in
just
for
this week as well.
complaints like this, something very similar, and she was my 3rd child, the doctor suggested that I had constipation. And I said, "Sir, this is my 3rd baby. I know the difference between baby and poop. Thank you very much." And it turned out I had HELP syndrome and nearly died. So I can relate to an awful lot of what's going on in the story, but it does not hit hard enough and specific enough in the racism. The way they were able to be very specific when it was Grace who was experiencing the racism after giving birth and then being accused of stealing groceries. Remember that? It's kind of like, oh, we need to do a racism story again.
But we can't be too racism.
Right.
And I appreciate I'm the whitest man alive.
You are. And you're also a man.
But
you're not the manliest man alive, but,
Thank you.
You're welcome.
But when
That is a compliment, by the way.
Well, it's at least half a one. But when I'm trying to recognise where this is happening, it's happened already with the getting the name wrong and the almost the suggestion of all black people look the same.
Right, and
then it's there with the you're strong and you're built for this.
Right, yeah.
I don't know that it's there with the negligence in looking after the patient who's complaining about being damp or having pain,
right,
or not feeling well. I don't know that it's necessarily there. I think it's very much negligence, and I think it's very much an uncaring bunch of people who, I don't know that because you're busy makes you rude.
Right.
Necessarily.
Or you're busy, so you suggest scented candles. That was just kind of ridiculous at that point, Mm-hmm. It's like, oh, get in a bath and light some scented candles and you'll be fine. Who says that? Who says that to anybody?
And I don't really know what it's like in the UK anymore, but the experience of any sort of medical situation, they take your vitals
Like,
all the time.
All the time.
And nobody's taking Dee Dee's blood pressure
Right.
until it's
Almost too late.
right. And I think that even if you're busy, you still have to do that
Yeah.
because you're covering yourself in case anything happens.
Absolutely. Especially if someone is in labor. And I mean, the fact that her water has broken and she's sitting out in the waiting room in a chair forever before they even take her in is kind of ridiculous. Even if there's not like a bed in a room, you'd have like a gurney or something in the hallway that you would put her on just so she is in the area where you can monitor her.
Right.
It just, well...
So Dee Dee falls unconscious, and now the nurse sees it. Now she makes a move. Dee Dee's rushed off, which allows James a chance to tell the baby how tough a time he and her other daddy have had lately.
Right, because they're gay.
And how she fixes everything. Outside, racist Kelly is demanded to know what's happened, so Michael explains about Dee Dee's hemorrhage and how she's currently being operated on. And later, the Baileys are left in the dark, and no one seems to know who Dee Dee is, never mind where she is or how she is.
Right, yes. And again, this in the hospital where her mother worked.
On Wednesday, 2 days later, and still no news on Dee Dee, and James has had about enough, but we learn that Dee Dee is out of surgery and is receiving some important news that we don't get to hear thanks to sound effects.
Or them just turning the mic off.
Dee Dee is exhausted when the family are finally allowed to see her. James has been given the all clear to get the kid home and has even decided on a name, Layla.
Because he's a huge Cream fan.
I don't think they spell it the same way, but it sounds the same way.
Right, yeah. She's still got them on their knees.
Mm-hmm. Let's just give a moment for that one just to sink in, shall we? Dee Dee could not give a fuck one way or the other and is in a lot of pain, so the menfolk give her some space. Ed, though, senses that something serious has happened. He's grown a beard. So, privately, he checks on her and she eventually reveals that she's had to have an emergency hysterectomy.
He's growing a beard faster than you.
I know. And so now won't be able to carry another child. It's because I'm such a man. Like the testosterone is pouring out of him. Ed thinks this changes everything and she needs to grab Layla back off of James.
No, she doesn't. I don't understand why these men don't understand that she has given this decision a lot of thought before telling them about her decision, and that her mind is made up, and that this whole giving the baby up for adoption is because she does not want to remember that she was in a relationship with this abusive man who nearly killed 2 young women and raped young women. She does not want to have that around her. Mm-hmm. And she's perfectly within her reason to not want that specific baby anywhere near her. Mm-hmm. The fact that they keep going back to this and, oh, this changes everything without thinking about what they're saying and without ever considering Dee Dee's feelings on any of this.
Well, it does change.
Just infuriating.
It does change an awful lot, but not necessarily anything to do with Layla. I'm more concerned that James is allowed to leave with this baby and take this baby overseas.
Well, he's not taking her overseas yet.
He's getting ready to do that. He's taking her home and he's about to get on a plane.
Yeah. Yeah, it typically does take, even if your child is being adopted by a family member, it does typically take a little bit longer. And the courts are still involved, especially if they're going to be going overseas with this baby and they're black and gay. Has anybody from Coronation Street been following the news lately about what black and gay people have been going through in this country? And foreigners. It's like the trifecta there.
There you go. So Dee Dee's thoughts on the matter haven't changed. Back home, Ed tells Alia that he thinks Dee Dee could do with a friend more than a dad, but it's Ed who takes some clothing for Dee Dee and once again makes a call for taking Layla back this time,
Shut up, Ed.
which James overhears, and he wants to know what the fuck is going on. So Dee Dee explains about the hysterectomy. James doesn't know what that means, so Dee Dee has to get the glove puppets out. James agrees with Ed. This changes everything.
It changes nothing.
And this isn't about him, which is funny because it's been all about him
Seriously.
since he got back. Dee Dee tells them all to leave and give her time to think. They've gone when Alia comes in, aware of Dee Dee's news and offering her ear, but then racist Kelly comes in and Dee Dee fucking loses
Oh,
it.
God, she unleashes on that poor kid so much.
Blaming
and her midriff.
all this on racist Kelly and her crop top and herself for being so stupid as to accept being guilted into being Frankie's baby farm, having a kid that she didn't want, and that will mean that now that she never will get a chance to have another.
Which is already icky when you consider that Dee Dee is giving birth to a black baby to save a white baby.
Upset, racist Kelly hurries away, leaving Alia to comfort Dee Dee. Later, the menfolk are back and Dee Dee has made her decision. She still doesn't want to take Layla off James, and she wants him to take her with him back to that America. James says that he can't do that to Dee Dee. Ed urges for patience before making a decision.
She's had she's had almost 9 months to think about this, Ed. Shut the fuck up.
But Dee Dee insists. Her mind is made up, and she's sure that this is the right thing for her, for Layla, and for James.
Yes.
She kisses her daughter goodbye and then lets James take her away, and everyone at the hospital allows this to happen too. Back in the street though, James gets a call from Danny's mate. It seems that Danny has been in a serious car accident, would you believe?
Yeah, I was thinking that he had been deported to El Salvador.
Or just immediately dead. Oh, it's Danny's mate. I wonder what Danny's mate wants. Oh, Danny's mate says that Danny's been in a serious car accident. I don't think they sold that very well.
They didn't.
Just a dreadful scene. And so hurried.
Yeah.
But James is allowed to take the baby out and make plans to leave. And nobody's really saying very much about that. What did you think of the scenes with racist Kelly here?
I mean, it kind of erases the fact that Dee Dee was also guilted into this by God. It feels like people are kind of forgetting that aspect of it, that she was.
And Ed.
No, Ed was okay. This is the problem. Ed was okay with her aborting this baby, but he's not okay with her giving the baby up for adoption. Still weird. It's okay for you to not have this baby at all, but if you're going to have it, I demand to have her bouncing on my knee every day for the rest of my life, because I keep forgetting that I have a granddaughter already. It does feel kind of unfair because Dee Dee is her own person and has agency and could have told racist Kelly at any time to fuck off. Mm-hmm. It is not racist Kelly's fault that they found another donor for this baby. This was always something that would be in the cards. And they never knew for sure whether or not Dee Dee's child would even be a match for Frankie. That never happened. There was never a time where in utero that baby was checked to make sure that they could even do this. And also, I don't know if they would do this to a newborn baby. I think you have to be of a certain age and able to consent to.
It doesn't
to
look
donate.
great. Let's face it. There's a baby just newly out.
Right. I do know that this sort of thing has happened in the past. There have been articles about this, but they were all within the same family. Like the mother, like the child has a disease, and the mother and the father decide to have another baby. Just and they will love that baby and they will raise that baby up, but they also decide to have another baby so that there is a donor for the child that they already have. That does happen, but it doesn't typically happen with two different mums. I don't know.
Well, this has been,
and it also kind of feels like there's no preparation for racist Kelly for what is about to happen. She goes in concerned for Dee Dee's well-being. She has no idea that Dee Dee has had a hysterectomy, and Dee Dee never tells her that. She just unloads on her and tells her to fuck off.
No, I think these are things that you think.
And you never say.
And you maybe hint at, but you're probably never going to say it. And you're never going to say it in anger to this person's face.
And don't get me wrong, the hormones are a raging in
No, that's
Dee Dee.
true.
So I get it, but I also,
Racist Kelly
it's
did
not
make
great all around.
a huge fuss over this at the time. And I think one of my complaints about this story at that point was, is no one letting the hospital do their job here and try and find a donor? There was no, this needs to be fixed right this minute.
Right. And this was also an issue with Carla and her kidney.
Absolutely. Nobody's prepared to give this the time that it takes to conduct a search to see if there's somebody.
And don't get me wrong, you would go to family members first for that sort of thing, like the kidney thing, not and also the baby thing. But did they not check Racist Kelly's dad to see if he would be a donor? Because he's also in prison and can't run away. They could test him.
Can't run away from that needle to test him.
Right. Yeah. They're...
Just corner him. He bites when he's cornered.
He does. It's sad. I don't know. It's just making a messy situation even messier.
It is. Okay, so on Thursday, Dee Dee has checked herself out of the hospital against medical advice, but she can't face another day in the place. Ed comes in with the kid, much to Dee Dee's surprise. No one was at home to look after her because James has fucked off back to the US.
Right, because Danny was in a major car accident
Yeah,
and may be dead
remember?
by now.
There's still no news of Danny, but Ed is sure that they'll make things work. Dee Dee, though, is going back to... She's going back to move into her flat, despite having had a hysterectomy yesterday.
Yeah.
Ed gets Dee Dee settled back home and then gets a call from Debbie about the overflowing toilets at the rape hotel. He has to go to deal with that, apparently. Michael is
because
M&A.
there are no plumbers. There's no plumbers in Weatherfield.
Michael is MIA. James is in the US. So Dee Dee offers to look after the baby despite having had a hysterectomy yesterday.
And can't lift a baby. This is the thing. A hysterectomy and a C-section.
Right. How much trauma are we putting onto this woman's torso?
She is in extreme pain and is not allowed to lift anything heavier than like 2 pounds because and that's just from the C-section. You add a hysterectomy to it and like she should be in bed. She shouldn't have been allowed to check herself out of the hospital. There should be there should be certain things that you can't check yourself out of the hospital afterwards for, just for liability's sake. And this hospital is already really fucked up when it came to Dee Dee.
You've got a huge chunk of what was inside you has been taken out.
Right.
And everything that's still inside you has to find a new way to fit together.
Because nature abhors a vacuum. She should have, remember when I had that little pump thing? Mm-hmm. That like, and the little thing attached to like collect all of the fluid and stuff that was building up in the vacuums of my body after the hernia surgery. Mm-hmm. Yeah, she should have that because you're right. She did have a major organ removed from her body.
Yeah, I've got a co-worker who had this and they were off for 3 months.
Yeah. Yeah. This is not something you just bounce back from.
No. The next day, she's at home.
Right.
And offering to look after her baby alone.
Right.
This is so stupid.
It's so stupid.
Anyway, Ed goes along with it and then fucks off to stick his hand down some shitty U-bends.
Because all of a sudden he's a plumber now.
Dee Dee speaks to James on the phone and tells him there's no rush to make any important decisions and Danny should be his priority, but it's clear through all the tears and snot that Dee Dee isn't coping well with the grumbly wee baby, who is, by the way, the cutest little baby I have ever seen.
She has hair. We don't get to see her hair in the hospital because she's wearing a cap, but all of a sudden she has hair and kind of looks like Toni Braxton.
Unchain my baby. In the pub, Alia and Sarah are surprised to learn that Dee Dee discharged herself, so they go and see her and learn about Danny's situation and that Dee Dee checked herself out a bit too soon. She's out of her depth, but Alia and Sarah are there to help. So Dee Dee admits to how bad she is and how terrible her treatment was at the hospital. and how she was unheard and treated like a problem rather than a patient, and all that is true. She's been looking into it and seen similar stories from other women who have the same colour skin as she has. She's decided to lodge a complaint, and Alia promises to do everything she can to help. Then she gets a text from James asking to speak to her ASAP. Well, if you need to speak to her ASAP, James, fucking phone her.
Right, seriously, what the hell?
Turns out that Danny's in one of those fancy induced comas now, so Layla will be in Weatherfield for the foreseeable future. Ed comes home and wants to talk about the buyers for the yard getting cold feet, but that's very quickly interrupted.
Didn't they?
And I thought that was settled months ago.
Yeah, wasn't Gary going to buy it back at one point?
No, they've offered it to Gary, but he knocked it back.
Because he's too busy being like me, selling
furniture.
Your dead gay uncle's stuff.
My dead gay uncle's not dead. You're just selling his stuff. You're essentially stealing from him. Dee Dee, though, changes the subject to James, and Ed announces that he's going to look after Layla between him, Debbie and Ronnie. And Dee Dee, who seemed to be about to make another suggestion, is happy to go along with this. And that's as far as we get with that this
Yeah, and
week.
it's nice of Ed to finally accept that his daughter does not want to have a fucking thing to do with this baby. This baby she had with her abuser.
Well, you've got the physical unsuitableness of the situation,
Right.
which let's not
Let's not
pretend
forget.
is negligible.
Right.
That's a huge part of it.
She
But
should
there's
not
also
even
the
be
mental
lifting
part
a
of it.
teacup, much less a baby.
There's the mental part of it that she's not
Right.
fit for either.
Right. And the mental is kind of affected by the physical because let's not forget lots of hormones rushing in because she's just had a baby, but also a lot of hormonal instability because she has had a hysterectomy and all of those bits or most of those bits have been taken out.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they didn't say anything about removing her ovaries and stuff, just the uterus. So yeah, this is it's stupid all the way down. And I appreciate them wanting to do a story about this, about racial medical negligence, because that is a problem. There are still doctors in this world who honestly believe that black people have fewer pain receptors in their body than white people, so can tolerate pain better than white people. And it's kind of fucking disturbing and terrifying that that is the case, that there are still people who believe that in this world. But it just feels like it's been very ham-handed in the way, like they only committed so far into doing it and did not, like they should have been braver in the execution of this storyline.
I absolutely agree.
And also, I'm just sick and tired to death of Dee Dee's family treating... No wonder Aggie left. No wonder Aggie does not want a fucking thing to do with these people anymore, because these men are terrible to Dee Dee. And it makes no sense, because before she got pregnant, they seemed very loving and supportive of her all the way through and of one another. And now all of a sudden, every step of the way, they're doubting her ability to make her own decisions about her life, while also being like, okay, fine, we're going to leave a baby with you.
The fact of the matter is, Dee Dee is really the only successful member of that family.
That's correct.
And
Michael is getting there. He's a success at the knicker factory, selling knickers.
He's a success until he sabotages his own success.
Right.
So Dee Dee really is the star of the family in more ways than one. And the way that they treat her is not off that position that she has.
Absolutely not.
She's not an idiot. She's not. She doesn't rely on anybody.
No.
She's her own person, and she is the person that helps other people
Right.
out.
And she's intelligent and mature enough to make her own decisions. And people need to let her do that and not second guess her and not try to force her to make a different decision just because they don't like it.
No, I like the idea of this story as being, one of those issue storylines that we talk about quite a bit, and Kate Brooks threatened us with at the start of the year.
As opposed to a good time.
And I thought that this was one of the worthier ones to to bring out into air, but
Ugh.
they don't. And this is historical through
Yes, absolutely.
through other storylines that touch on the same things. They really don't want to be to nail their, pardon the pun, their colours to the mast.
Right.
And I get racism is insidious and not always obvious and
Right.
front and centre. But I think there needed to be more of that in here so that the message that they're trying to portray is picked up, because showing something that's insidious in an insidious way, the people that you're trying to reach and to show how this is a thing don't pick up on it.
Right.
Because they don't pick up on it when their gran says something outrageous about a Bangladeshi man or whatever.
Right.
And I don't know, it needs a little bit more guts to it.
Yeah,
and,
absolutely.
and to tell what is a very important story.
Yes.
And I mean, I'm sure that from now, it gets handled very well, but the events that lead up to this, I think, just needed a little bit more meat on the bones.
Yes. I imagine that this court case will bring out a lot of racism about how they handle it and how they treat Dee Dee as a lawyer.
Yeah, we'll see. Moving on, our next storyline is Fuck You, Coronation Street. On Monday, Debbie meets Ronnie and Nina's Rolls, and when she sees Bernie flashing her badges, Mick comes in and the atmosphere turns sour. Debbie tells Ronnie to ignore him, but later, Debbie is annoyed by the noise coming from Mick's house while Kev is napping ahead of his chemo, and she shouts abuse at an open window. When Ronnie comes in, he finds Alfie on his own, and when he checks outside, Debbie is sparked out into the ginnel, struggling to get up, and with a nasty blob of jam on her head, clearly disorientated.
Yes.
Back home, Debbie can't remember what happened, and Ronnie worries that this is Mick's doing. Debbie doesn't think so and tells Ronnie to forget it. Ronnie doesn't look so sure.
Nope.
In the pub, when Mick and Lou are being assholes, Ronnie accuses him of beating up Debbie and threatens to kill him if he comes near his family again. And later, Kev rises from his nap to tell everyone he's heading back for another nap. Ronnie admits to Debbie about his run-in with Mick, and Debbie is fucking furious. She told him to let it go, but Ronnie couldn't let it go. Debbie reminds him to just fucking drop it. So on Wednesday, Debbie is called upon to take Jack's football boots into school, which annoys Ronnie because Debbie should be taking it easy after her incident yesterday. But Debbie insists that she's fine. A passing Mick hurls abuse at the pair of them. Debbie reminds Ronnie that this is all dropped now, remember? But meanwhile, Mick and Lou take their old telly round to Gemma's wig as they've got a new one. And when they learn that the Quad Squad are planning a holiday, they offer up their roof box to help with the load, and Gemma's wig is made up. What a lovely couple. In Nina's Rolls later, Ches and Gemma's wig are chatting about how great a couple Lou and Mick are, and Ronnie's at the next table and warns them off Mick, who he calls dangerous. Later, Ronnie and Mick run into each other, and after receiving a mouthful from Mick, Ronnie gets some satisfaction from slashing the tyres on Mick's van.
Now, does he actually slash them, or is he about ready to slash them and Debbie yells at him?
No, he stabs it with a screwdriver.
Right.
So he has vandalised it. And he's caught in the act by Debbie, and she's fucking furious again. Ronnie apologises but says that she was the only one who saw him and it made him feel good. But later in the pub, Mick comes in, ranging. He's caught Ronnie on his dash cam fucking with his van. Ronnie again accuses him of assaulting Debbie, but Mick wants paid for the work and for the damage, or the cops are getting told. Chesney's there to witness this and looks quite scared at the proceedings. Mick reveals to Ches that he got the dash cam after some psycho put sugar in his tank. Gulp, says Chesney. And even though Chesney was charged for this and coughed up for the repair, somehow Ches doesn't know that this was Mick. But back home, Gemma's wig has got the TV set up, and between that and the fridge, there's barely room for people in that front room.
Correct.
Chesney bursts in, worried that Mick was his phantom van driver, and he finds a citation from the police, but it's in the name of Mark Michaelis. And Gemma knows that that's why he's called Mick, that Lou's told him that it's from his last name,
Right.
not his first name.
So he's not named Mickey Mouse,
No.
which happens in another storyline.
We can't let him know that Chesney was the twat what sugared the tank, or he's a dead man.
Yeah, he already knows. Why wouldn't he already know?
But Chesney doesn't know that he knows.
Yeah, which is dumb. Because of course he'd know. Because Chesney was charged with it. They're not going to say, oh no, we're not going to tell you who did it.
But this is the point.
Is that Chesney's dumb?
No, that they've told him that the name Mark
Right.
isn't Mick's name.
No.
And it's from an old address.
Right. But if he's got the name of that guy, why would he not think that that guy would also have his name, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, but he doesn't know that Mick's the van driver until today.
Right. But then after he finds that out, it's after he finds that out that he and Gemma are like, oh, he can never know that I was the guy with the sugar. And it's like, he already knows that you're the guy with the sugar, just the same way that you know that he's the guy with the van, because he also got paperwork with your name on it.
But maybe there's lots of Chesneys in Manchester.
Chesney Brown.
Winter Brown.
Yeah, there's only one Chesney Winter Brown.
It's the most common name combination since John Smith. On Thursday, Chesney is worried when he gets an invite from Mick for a boozy day out. But he's on the orange juice when they meet up in the pub. And Mick admires Chesney's standards.
There's something wrong with that orange juice. Did you notice? It was like dark for some reason.
Was it? I wasn't paying attention. Telling him that he knows his own mind and that he's a proper bloke. Mick reckons Ches would even be the sort of person who owns up to any mistakes that he's made in the past.
Yeah.
And this doesn't ring any bells for Ches.
Which is hilarious.
Back at the quad house, though, Chesney's using a firm tone to control his offspring, and it seems to have worked, but he remains terrified of Mick. Gemma's wig and Chesney are about to enjoy a quiet night with the kids asleep when Mick and Lou burst through the back door with a six-pack
Surprise!
and stick the fucking tunes on. And that's as far as we get with that this week.
Are you kind of glad that...
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yes. 100% glad that both of them are not long for the street.
Yeah. Because, I mean, this storyline in particular, it's just ridiculous and boring and dumb. The stuff with Debbie, I can kind of understand. And then them just kind of like wandering through the street being deplorable to people at random. Like the whole thing with Daisy and Daniel and Lou finally recognizing what's going on and saying, Mick, shut the fuck up, let's go inside, sort of thing. Kind of shows their humanity a little bit better than the stupid Chesney sugar storyline.
Which was, if you remember, the most boring story on the show months ago.
Yes. And
And
yet
it's not
we're
any
still
more
here.
exciting now.
We're still here.
I wonder what is going on with these characters, though, because they were brought into the show with some fanfare.
Yeah.
They were given a little press release. They were
Right.
interviewed in the Coronation Street styling, where they talk a little bit about their characters and they talk about how much they love the show and all that sort of stuff. They were not brought in as bit part characters to be here for 6 months and then go.
Right.
Or if they were, they
That
were
wasn't
given
the insinuation.
a pretty fancy welcome.
Yeah.
So for them both to have gone, like, well, last week we knew that Mick was going to be going.
Right. And we speculated about Lou.
And thought that Lou might be hanging around. But it seems that the two of them are not going to be making it to Christmas on the show, let's put it that way.
No.
And if this is due to viewer feedback, I'm wondering why this is the storyline that viewer feedback matters and not the Debbie storyline.
Right.
Where I've seen far more indignation from the viewership about Debbie than I ever did about Mick. I mean, I know he doesn't have an awful lot of fans. He's not meant to have fans. He's meant to be an irritant.
Right.
And he's doing that job fairly well.
Very well.
But there's something strange about this kind of U-turn on both these characters.
Right.
I dare say it'll all come out.
How do you feel about the fact that they kind of trotted Debbie out to talk about how honored she is to be doing this particular storyline and how important it is to talk about early onset dementia and stuff?
You've got to say that, haven't you? You're professional.
Yeah. It's like...
And you're professional and you want to work again.
Right. And it's like the show thinks that that's going to stop people from complaining about it. And it's like, do you know the people who watch your show?
What I was surprised at was Sue Devaney's surprise at how much her character was loved.
Yeah.
And I guess you can easily miss that because a lot of people that are on the show have nothing to do with
Social
the
media.
social media and have an interest in what really people what people think. What I kind of picked up from the bits of Sofa Cinema Club that I listened to was it's a job for Jack P. Shepherd and for Ben Price. Coulson seemed to be more enamoured with the mythos of the show. But
Right.
I always got the impression that, Jack P. Shepherd loves the show and loves the people that he works with, but he's very, very careful to separate it.
Right.
And then there's other people who are very much visible on social media and who are advocates for the show and promoters of the show.
Right.
But Sue Devaney, I think, goes in, she does her magic, she goes home, and then how would she know if people love her character or not when she's not actively looking to find out?
Right. Yeah.
But people really love her character.
People do. We love her character.
It's almost universal as
Yeah.
far as I can make out.
It's one of the few things that all Corrie fans agree on. Which
Yeah,
is not
and-
much.
And this, the startings of this story, while I think they've been, again, done reasonably well, it's hard to get behind it because I disapprove of it so much.
Right. And as many people have been saying, why would you do this to a character and an actor who doesn't want to leave the show? Mm-hmm. You have a number of middle-aged women who are leaving the show. It would have been so much more satisfying to see what Eileen would do with this storyline, or even Yasmin with this storyline, instead of I'm fucking off to London to help with modern slavery sort
At
of
70
thing.
years old, I guess.
Right. There were other characters that this could have been done with, and you would not see the outrage because you'd be like, oh, well, Sue Cleaver already said she wants to leave the show, so...
And what a great way for her to go out, given
Right.
this big storyline that she can really sink her teeth into.
And then her sister doesn't have to die.
Right.
Because people are kind of outraged about that too. About
you
why
brought her
would you
back.
bring Julie back, who's a delightful person and a character who is more or less universally beloved, just to kill her off? Remind everybody why they love her, and then kill her off.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Doesn't make any sense.
it really doesn't.
All right, we'll move on to Brother, Can You Spare a Kidney? Just a few scenes from this on Monday.
It's Swain.
So Monday, Betsy gets home from hospital and goes straight to her room while Swain tries to apologise for shooting her in the shoulder.
Betsy has been in the hospital longer with this shoulder thing than Dee Dee has for a hysterectomy. And granted, Dee Dee checked herself out of the hospital, but still, Betsy's been in the hospital longer for getting shot in the shoulder.
Yeah, was she in it for a week? Kind of feels like that.
Yeah.
Anyway, later, Betsy complains about this to her new best friend, Nina. And Nina tells Betsy she's a stupid cow, and obviously Swain had no choice and would have done for her what she did for Carla. And this seems
And
to...
also did not see her lurking in the garden where she shouldn't have been. So couldn't have possibly done it on purpose.
So later, when Carla and Swain come back from wherever it was they were, Betsy tells Swain that she doesn't blame her for anything, and she apologises to both of them for behaving like a spoilt shitbag. And that's as far as we get with that this week.
How do you feel about the de-gothification of Nina?
Well, I predicted it.
You did.
It's taken a lot longer than I expected,
Yeah.
but
It's still disappointing.
it's been so gradual, it's almost gone unnoticed.
Right. It's been so gradual that by the point you do notice, it's like, wait a second, where have half of her piercings gone? and where did this shirt come from?
It kind of started when she became blonde
Right.
for a bit,
Blondish.
and that allowed some of the makeup to change because the makeup would have been I don't know, does it go all that well with blonde hair as opposed to black hair? Because there's a contrast between the black hair and the white makeup.
Right, but there's also a contrast between the blonde hair and the heavy black eyeliner and black lipstick. There are blonde goths.
Yeah, I guess it must be.
Yeah.
No ginger goths, though.
I'm sure there are.
But yeah, it's been a slow, gentle process.
Yeah, and
People grow up. They grow out of things.
I know 40-year-old goths.
But surely you know some goths who don't dress that way anymore. I do.
You dress that way anymore?
No, because the way that I phrased that sentence, Helen, was I know. Surely you know goths that don't dress like goths anymore. Like all the goths that I went to school with aren't goths anymore.
Yeah,
a couple of them are, but most of them aren't.
I suppose most of the guys that I went to school with who looked like
Robert Smith.
Robert Smith, thank you. Mm-hmm. It's so nice that you knew exactly who I was talking
Yeah,
about.
I'm sure we've had this conversation before.
You know, which was like half of the guys I went to high school with looked like Robert Smith. The other ones looked like Michael J. Fox. So
strange school you must have went to.
It's wealthy people are weird. But anyway, you know, most of them don't look like Robert Smith anymore, which is a shame because Robert Smith still looks like Robert Smith.
Yeah, but
he kind of has
he's
to.
not trying to hold down a bank job.
No.
Yeah, I don't think anybody thought that Betsy was going to be blaming Swain for very long about this, because even she was going to realise that this wasn't deliberate, and even though her ire seemed to be more directed to the fact that
Swain
is a cop and didn't think about her own safety. Right.
And let's not forget, Betsy has a point that Swain should not have run into that house.
Mm-hmm. We were agreeing with her last week.
But also, Betsy shouldn't have been in that garden either. So they both share the blame in putting themselves in danger to the detriment of their family.
Yeah. All right, we'll move on to Daisy's catfishing again. Because she's done this before.
Because why not? Why not? Why not have yet another Daisy catfishing story? Sure. This is so stupid.
Although this is catfishing by proxy, almost.
Right.
So is it catfishing?
And it involves Christina, and that's the part that I love.
Oh, God. I think we're a divided house on this one.
Yeah.
On Monday, in Nina's Rolls, Daisy's still moping about her set 2 with Jenny and complains to Daniel, who can't be bothered listening to it, saying what happened to Bertie was an accident, and clearly Jenny was upset too. At the Rovers, Jenny wants to talk, but Daisy doesn't, and then Christina comes in unannounced, saying that she had to hear about Daisy's miscarriage on the grapevine, and she gives Daisy a big hug.
What grapevine? Who on the street is talking to Christina?
Daisy is.
She says that she had to hear about the miscarriage on the grapevine. Uh-huh. That does not sound believable.
Well, she's not going to say to Jenny that Daisy called me, but that's what we saw last week.
Yeah. You'd think that she'd be better at lying than this.
Later, as Christina's trying it on with Steve,
which was hilarious, by the way,
she goes behind the bar, and in the resulting melee, a pint is poured all over Jenny. Daisy quickly
which was
whisks
also funny.
Jenny through the back for a chat, and calmly they agree that they both said some horrific things to each other, and if they meant them, there's no going back. Daisy feels like Jenny has taken the memory of Tom away from her, and back then Jenny felt like she couldn't get out of bed, couldn't face Daisy's dad, and couldn't face Daisy, and she knows Daisy would change the past if she could. But notably, she doesn't say, what I told you last week didn't happen.
Right.
She apologises for saying what she said.
Yeah, and this is a really kind of heartfelt scene until you realize that Daisy's not being sincere at all in this.
Right.
And that kind of ruins it.
Yeah, Jenny apologises for saying what she said, and Daisy says, me too, which is ambiguous at best. Does she say that she's sorry that Jenny said what she said, or is she sorry that she said what she said? Christina is furious to learn that Daisy and Jenny have agreed to start afresh. Jenny promises to make an effort and offers her hand, which Christina reluctantly accepts. Later, Jenny is chuffed to get a match on her dating app, which is noticed and commented on by Christina. Daniel comes into the pub and is relieved to hear that Daisy and Jenny are back on terms. Privately, though, Christina tells Daisy that she better not be getting cold feet here. Christina is here at Daisy's behest with the sole intention of bringing Jenny Connor down. Daisy says she's not about to back down now.
So do they start the catfishing after they discovered that Jenny is on this dating app? Or did they start the catfishing not knowing that Jenny was on the dating app and then seeing Jenny on the dating app?
We had some dating app action last week,
So did
but
Daisy
very quietly mentioned, like the yard not selling, very quietly mentioned that you could almost miss.
right?
I think.
Yeah, because last week I was more interested in what happened with Todd and the dating app.
Mm-hmm.
There was a lot of dating app action going on. It was
was.
very confusing.
On Wednesday, Jenny is
Too
texting
much.
her new beau, and Daisy thinks she deserves some happiness. Jenny is super chatty about this mysterious bloke, Dom. And I thought, God, it's not German Dom, is it? Eliza's dad? Saying that their love languages match, and he's dead intellectual and stuff. So she's going to suggest crazy golf for their first date. Yeah, if he's dead intellectual and stuff, I'm sure he'd love that. Daisy thinks that she should wait to be asked and make him work for it. But later in a booth we learn, it's Christina who is Dom, and she and Daisy are catfishing
Yeah,
Jenny.
she is.
Seemingly with a view to rip some money out of her. Especially when, is Christina lying here when she says that Jenny was bragging to Dom about her money and how she was going to buy the pub of her dreams? I don't know, it seemed very, very fortunate for the purposes of the plot that was what happened.
I'm also confused because I thought it was a different ex-husband who had the shares and not Daisy's dad.
Daisy's dad.
It is Daisy's dad. So he is dead then. Because she wouldn't be getting these shares if he was alive. Still, one would think.
I don't know.
I don't know. This whole story is confusing to me and does not make any sense. And is also just regurgitating things that have already happened.
Because we all loved it when Daisy was catfishing Ryan.
Yeah, that was great. It was
Let's do
so
that
good.
again. Later, Jenny has ignored Daisy's advice and texted Dom, but he hasn't replied. And she also sent a voice message, and it's cringy as fuck as she talks about crazy golf an awful lot. Just at that, a delivery guy comes in with a lovely bouquet of old lady blooms for Jenny. Oh, and it's from Dom. Jenny is thrilled to bits, while Christina and Daisy share a look. And that's as far as we get with that this week. So they're going to con her out of her money. Is that what they're going to do?
Apparently. Is
Which-
what they're gonna try to do, but that doesn't.
And that passes, that makes sense, because you can't have Jenny with money for any length of time. This is fleeting. The money's going to go to Daisy, and then she's going to fuck off.
But then she has to split
Stealing
it with.
more money.
Then she has to split it with Christina.
God, between catfishing and stealing money, Daisy just knocking it out the park. Try it again. Just keep on trying it again. It's going to work eventually.
And I hate this whole Daisy's good. No, Daisy's bad. Mm-hmm. No, Daisy's good again. But no, now she's bad because Jenny made her sad. So now she's bad again. It's like, why show us this fake reconciliation for like 5-10 minutes if it doesn't actually mean anything and it just makes Daisy look worse?
It all stems from Jenny behaving out of character by telling Daniel that the baby was his when she had no sense that that was true. And that set this whole chain of events into motion.
I would even argue that this whole thing started when Jenny acted out of character and stole money from Carla way back when, at the behest of the fact that Daisy was able to convince her to do that to, her stepdaughter. Mm-hmm. When family means so much to Jenny, that's why Daisy's there.
Yeah, she does love the pub though. And she does love the life that she has in that pub. She had the B&B thing going for her.
Right.
Which we've sort of forgotten about. But yeah, the leaps of faith that we've had to take with Jenny's character have been many
And
over
deplorable.
the past few years. And it just gets to the point where you don't particularly care who comes out of this the best, because I don't really like either of them at the moment.
No.
And I certainly don't like Christina.
Yeah.
She's an agitator again. She's there to be annoying.
Right. Yeah. And I like her for that. I don't think she's a good person, But I like that she just kind of swans in and hits on Steve and, you know, is not bothered by anything and is, you know, just really enjoying sinking her teeth into Jenny again.
Mm-hmm.
So I like that. I don't think she's a good person necessarily, but I think she makes a good villain. And she's big and she's blousy and she takes up space. And I appreciate women who do that sort of thing.
We'll move on to Steve's many regrets. On
He's
Monday,
had a few.
Cassie meets Evelyn and Nina's roles. A berate Evelyn again.
Yes.
She's affronted by Cassie and Steve. Cassie is sad because Steve doesn't want to know her anymore and thought getting his hole would have lightened the mood about her. She really liked him too. Evelyn says, you teach what is acceptable by what you accept. So when Steve goes to apologise for what he said to her the other day and to say that he really likes her too and wants to try again, Evelyn's words are still fresh in Cassie's head and she tells him that it's clearly not meant to be and they should move on. Later in the pub though, Steve and Cassie make eyes at each other until Evelyn puts a kibosh on that and threatens to rip Steve's gonads off.
Which was funny.
And that's as far as we get with that this week.
I'm all for gonad ripping.
I think Steve and Cassie are probably going to get together at some point.
Absolutely.
And I'm not upset about that.
No. It's good. It works for me.
All right, our penultimate storyline is Theo's vests. On Thursday,
Which are always sparkling clean, even
So
though
clean
he
for a
wears
builder.
them to work.
There's Rosie, Eileen, George, Julie. They're all having breakfast and talking about a day out at the Railway Museum, but Todd is busy texting secret texts on his phone and ducks out of their plans. Did I miss something? Because it feels like there are some scenes missing here, because it's Theo who turns up at Todd's back door.
But not like that.
Theo wants to be secret squirrel about this, and they have some beers together while the family's out, and then get their hole.
Right. So they've been texting back and forth on the dating app. The dating app that he saw Theo on. The Coronation Street version of Grindr.
Right, so the chain of events then, let's agree, is Todd tries it on with Theo. Theo says, I'm not gay. Todd finds evidence that Theo is on a dating app.
For gay people.
And then invites him round.
For a little ha-ha.
And Theo just turns up.
Yes.
See, I'm missing the bit where Theo reacts to Todd knowing that he's a liar about being gay. That bit,
we don't get that bit.
No, and that's a bit that I think I'm missing.
Right.
And that's a bit that I think I really need to see here.
But I think we get that actually after they have sex, when Theo freaks out with the family coming back early and saying, my family can never know, and my family doesn't know your family, but that's not important. My family can never know that my deep, dark secret that I'm gay, even though I'm very publicly on a dating app for gay people.
And wear vests like that.
Right, yes. And look like a reject from the Village People. All the time. Even when he's not working,
Todd's
he's wearing
going
those vests.
for a Native American chief next. Theo mentions how this was a challenge for him, so I suppose he's new to this coming out thing, maybe. I don't know. Afterwards, it looks like Theo's about to do a runner, but gets held up looking for his phone. Theo says it's not Todd, it's his family that complicate things, so this needs to be on the down low. Todd, though, is disappointed because he really enjoyed the day, maybe enjoyed it a bit too much, and they're about to get it on again when they're interrupted by Julie, Eileen and George coming home from the train museum or wherever the fuck it was they were.
Yes.
Theo literally dives out the back door. Todd is surprised because no one in his family really gives two fucks about whether folk are gay or not.
Right.
They come home wanting to talk about trains. Todd quickly ushers them out to speed dial and promises to join them later. And when they go, Theo comes back in for his jacket, tells Todd that they need to cool it because he can't risk his family finding out. And that's as far as we get with that this week.
Yes.
I'm happy for Todd.
Yeah, but
I'm always happy for Todd when he gets into a relationship, but it never seems to last
with
very
anyone
long,
other than
and
Billy.
It's doomed.
Right. Yeah. Remember the nice NHS man?
Moses.
Yeah. Which was ended for no apparent reason.
Moses moved to London.
Right. For no apparent reason.
To work for his brother's car washing company?
Right. Yes. So he's not even going to be like doing medical stuff anymore.
So not no apparent reason, but no good reason.
Correct. And it makes me wonder if like too many people were writing in complaining about an interracial relationship that's also gay.
I don't know about that. But
Who
it
knows?
was like,
But and also an immigrant.
The character seemed to work for me. But
Right. It worked for me too. And he was great and he was nice. And, Paul needed him as well.
Mm-hmm.
So they had to hire someone new. They had to hire someone else to take care of Paul now.
That's why they got rid of him. It was to make Paul's life worse.
Right. When he was already dying of MND.
I don't mind this Theo.
And his vests, really? You don't mind those?
I don't mind him.
I
I think it's hilarious that he goes to eat in a restaurant wearing a vest
Yeah.
in Manchester
And we've yet to see
in
him.
spring.
And yet we've yet to see him in a normal shirt. I half expected him to show up with his construction hat on. To which Todd will say, "You can leave your hat on." Because,
Let's get some digging done.
But I would just like for gay people to be happy on the show. That would be nice, wouldn't it?
He's got to have a secret. A new character's got to have a secret. If his secret is only that my family don't know I'm gay, then it's not much of a secret.
Ronnie did have I was going to say, did Ronnie have a secret? And Ronnie's secret was that he thought he was Michael's dad. Remember that? Mm-hmm. God, that was stupid.
I thought that you loved Aggie. I'm going to play Erasure again. No, I'm not.
No, please do.
No, I quite like Theo. But what I really like is seeing Todd happy. And Todd's character's really interesting. And his insecurities are always delightful to see because he comes across as being so cocksure.
Ha. And yet he's not really.
No. He covers it up like everyone covers it up.
Right. He's like this 40-year-old gay man who just hasn't really got... He's finally figured out his life as far as career is concerned. Mm-hmm. But everything else...
Yeah, he's got nothing sorted out.
He's got nothing sorted out.
So this is interesting. And this is obviously going to go somewhere, and I'm quite keen to see where that is.
Next week, Theo wears a shirt.
Oh, Marge Simpson appears in the...
Is it going to be a t-shirt, a polo, a pullover?
I would
Stay
like to see
tuned.
Theo in one of those t-shirts that has a tuxedo printed on it. That would work.
So you want this to be a 1980s comedy about high school students?
In Neighbours this week, a baby got... I don't know exactly got christened, but there was a baby ceremony, and the baby wore a tuxedo onesie.
That's cute.
It was hilarious. All right, our final storyline tonight is Sucks to be a Webster. On Wednesday, Abby has packed a couple of books for Kev during his chemo. One of them is Bob Mortimer's, which is likely to make him burst a nut with laughter. Kev hates the fussing and insists that he's fine.
And he's too straight to read.
Too much of a man. And insists that he's fine, but Abby wants him to be comfortable for his first chemo session. So at the hospital, Kev is hooked up to the good stuff with 2 unopened books, and Abby is soon called away because Alfie has puked his guts up at preschool. This leaves Kev on his own to look at all the other sad sacks in the chemo ward with their football sticker albums. The nurses are nice to him though, because he's not a pregnant black woman. Afterwards, Kev is sitting on the beach. No, no, he's not.
On the beach.
That's a big scene jump if that had happened. Afterwards, Kev is sitting on a bench
Okay.
and is joined by Julie. And the two of them find common ground, talking about how they're dealing with their cancer and looking death in the face. Kev is able to tell Julie how sad and scared he is, and he has to keep a smile on his face for his family. Don't say his family have noticed.
I don't think I've ever seen Kev smile before in my life.
Julie thinks he'd prefer to see that he has emotions. The two of them go home together, but not like that.
Not like that.
They go back to Nina's Rolls and continue their chat about their own stories. And it seems that they're doing good for each other. Kev admits to keeping things to himself, just as Abby comes in, kind of upset that Kev hasn't been answering his phone, and quickly ushers him back out. At home, Abby is angry with him, and even Jack is put out. She thought something was up because he wasn't answering his phone, but Kev accuses her of taking that out on a dying woman and it was a relief to talk to someone who knew what he was going through, and that's Abby told. Abby says she tries to help, but he doesn't let her in. On Thursday, Kev isn't his normal cheery self and has just received an email from Jack's school. Jack asks about going to a party because he's got a half day, but Kev is fucking furious because Jack's been in a fight. Jack points out that Debbie knew, thanks Jack, and that Kev's got anger management issues.
It's true.
Kev checks in with Debbie later about this, and she says that she kept the fight quiet because Kev didn't need to know and has other things to worry about. He goes to work and immediately starts picking on Tyrone in the diary of work that they've got. Hope and Jack show up, and Kev remembers that he's angry at him, so continues shouting at the pair of them. He takes a call from Abby, so Tyrone gives the kids some money to fuck off for a milkshake at the precinct. Kev really doesn't like people telling him to take it easy. And he's back in hospital for some more chemo. And I thought, that's unusual, isn't it? I mean, I don't have an awful lot of experience in this, but I remember my mum was, you get chemo 1 week, you feel terrible for 1 week, you feel better for 1 week, and then you get chemo again.
Right.
I don't remember chemo
Like
in
every day.
consecutive days.
Yeah, that seems.
But maybe that for different cancers it's different things.
Right. And this is, let's not forget, a cancer that they think they've gotten all of it out.
Oh, I thought they'd said it had spread to his lymph nodes.
Lymph nodes.
Lymph nodes.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Never mind.
He sends Abby on her way, but asks if she thinks that he was too hard on Jack, and she thinks that he was, and he should have let Jack apologise. So Kev changes his mind and says that he's going to let Jack go to the party after all. Abby's upset at being pushed away as she leaves. Jack, though, has been dared by Hope at the precinct to rent the e-scooters that Nick and Toya have been using.
Right, which was ridiculous.
Are you meant to wear helmets when you're on e-scooters?
Yes.
Are you? That looked silly.
Apparently for lymphoma, the typical schedule is given in 6 to 8 cycles, 21 days apart. So
Yeah, that's
that makes
exactly
more
what I
sense than
expected, yeah.
the very next day.
As Jack and Hope are coming back from doing that, Hope gets wired into Evelyn's brandy just as PC Tinker and his colleague appear, and then Tyrone appears, and then post-chemo Kev appears, showing up in a taxi. What the fuck has Jack been up to now? Well, it turns out that they've been using Kev's credit card to rent the e-scooters.
But they didn't. They stole them from... This is the part that confused me. Because they haven't gone back to the house since getting their ice cream or milkshakes or whatever. And they just stole those... They stole them from Nick and Toya.
But they were done with them.
Right.
So their credit card wouldn't be active on it anymore.
When was the credit card stealing supposed to have happened?
I have no idea.
Because they would have
Probably when Todd and Theo were arguing about Todd finding out that Theo had been lying about being gay.
They would have had to have gone back to the house and then gone back, and hopefully the scooters were still there. The way Hope was talking about it was that their scooters are just sitting there. Let's just take them. And maybe there would have been a few more minutes left on them, and then...
I don't think that's how it works.
I don't know. It was confusing.
It was confusing.
And why would Nick and Toya just leave them there?
Well, so that this could happen.
Right. Yeah. And you don't rent helmets usually, do you?
No.
That does not appear
No, they must carry their helmets around with them.
hygienic.
Anyway,
It was kind of goofy to see Nick and Toya wearing helmets and riding scooters.
Toya's pink helmet,
Yeah.
that was adorable.
It was fun.
So anyway, Kev mentions that he must have left his credit card on the table at home before his chemo session, and on the mention of this, Tinker's colleague decides to let the kids off with a warning. Kev's not happy with this special treatment, but lets it slide until he and Tyrone get home. He hates being a pity case and heads off for a nap, leaving Jack to stew. And this allows Abby to get stuck into Jack, and we learn that he claims that he got into bother with Hope for something to do to keep his brain off the things that he doesn't want to think about, like how much of an asshole his dad is.
Right. And also his dad might be dying of cancer, so
Well, that too.
His dad may never
Not be an asshole.
may never get to a point where he recognizes that he's an asshole to his family and I don't know, apologizes for it and maybe changes.
Speak of the devil, Kev comes down in the mood and angrily goes out for a pint. He goes to the bistro and is found by Tyrone, worried about him drinking. Kev doesn't take kindly to this, or Tyrone's offer to speak with Jack to help Kev out.
It's gay to not get drunk.
Kev tells him to fuck off and focus on Hope, who is a bad influence. Tyrone isn't happy that Hope's taking all the responsibility for this, reminding him of Jack burning down ITV Stefan's office.
Yes. Well, or at least blowing up his car, which I guess caused the office to blow up as well.
Sure. Kev continues to poke at Tyrone, and when Tyrone talks about all the extra time he's putting into the garage, now Kev decides that he wants to play the cancer card after all. Tyrone's had enough. Tells Kev he can shove his garage up his arse.
Right up his arse.
And he quits. And that's how we end this week's episodes.
Correct.
Remember when I, foolishly now, was impressed by Kev and his mature attitude to this
testicular
news?
cancer, yes. Now that it's spread to his lymph nodes, now that it's not in like a sensitive part of his body, because who knows what lymph nodes are? I don't think most people know what a lymph node is.
Is it this? Is it this that's in my neck?
Well, they're all over your body.
Are they?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Which is why it's bad when cancer spreads to them, because
That
then
would
it
make
can
sense.
spread to all the rest of the parts of your body, and then you're fucked.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, we were both foolish in this particular endeavor, because we were both like, oh, it's really nice how Kev is handling this news, and is,
How refreshing it was.
yeah. And then, of course,
He's Kev.
that stops.
He goes back to
And he-
Kev.
right. Once he doesn't have to prove his masculinity, he very much has to prove his masculinity.
It's gay not to take it out on your family and loved
Right,
ones
yes.
and friends when you have cancer.
I thought the whole thing with Abby and Julie was weird, because it did kind of seem like Abby was kind of eyeing Julie up, like what the hell was going on. But she was kind and respectful and everything, and didn't like accuse her of anything. So it was weird when they got back to the house and Kev lays into Abby for berating a dying woman, because it didn't really seem like Abby was berating a dying woman. She
No,
was
what
just,
she did was interrupt the conversation.
right. Yeah. And be upset that Kev wasn't doing what she thought that Kev should be doing. So it was more being henpecked than anything else. And I can kind of understand his feeling, because, like, if I was speaking to a friend in a coffee shop and you just, like, burst in and said, "What are you doing? Why's your phone off? Why aren't you responding to your texts?" I'd be annoyed at you. As you would be at me if I did it to you.
Very much so.
Because we're both adults. And we're both in a really secure relationship with one another, where we are not threatened by spending time apart from one another.
Not that we do an awful lot of that, but
It's true.
but no, it's, oh, I'm sorry that I'm not behaving in the way that you want me to behave. Well,
Right.
that kind of sounds like a you problem then.
Yeah. You know, but then to turn it around and claim and not address this problem between the two of them, to turn it around and make it all about Julie, is kind of weird.
Much as I hate to say this, and I really, really do hate to say this after everything that I've said in previous weeks, Abby's PTSD's just gone away then.
Yeah. Yep. It's cured. She's no longer seen dead Seb on the street.
Because what I thought was going to be maybe interesting about this was that the wedge that was going to become apparent between Abby and Kev was not just his cancer and not just her PTSD and not just what's happening with Debbie. It was going to be all of them.
Right.
But it just seems to be the cancer and Kev's attitude.
Right. Yes. And we kind of forget that Debbie may or may not have dementia when she's with Kev and Abby. And we only remember it when she's with Ronnie. Sure.
And I really don't like, although it is very much in character for Kev, stop making my cancer an excuse for not doing something. Stop making my cancer an excuse for not treating my kid the way that you would treat them normally.
Right.
For doing something normally.
Yeah.
For doing something bad.
Illegal.
But then as soon as Tyrone says to him, "Do you know how many hours I've been putting into this fucking garage and not
Right.
seeing my kids and my family?" And he's like, "Oh, I'm sorry if my cancer's just
Right, yeah.
You know, you can't have it both ways, Kev. And although Kev, both ways Webster, seems to be an appropriate nickname, just doesn't really work. Or it just makes him even more despicable than he always is. I don't know. But he is doing his best to push Abby away and keep her at arm's length when the roles were reversed and Abby needed him around.
Yeah.
You know, if Abby was pushing him away, I don't think that this conversation would be happening. Oh well. That was the week that was Coronation Street, I guess.
Yeah, I guess so.
What was your moment of the week?
Is it Christina flirting with Steve? That was kind of my favorite moment of the week because it was a bad week.
No, my favourite moment, despite everything that I've just said, was Kevin and Julie's chat.
Yeah, that was nice. It was nice. Yeah, I can go with that.
Excellent. That was our
Moment of the week.
Moment of the week.
boring moment of the week.
Let's see. Is it Gemma being mesmerized by a television like she's never seen a television before?
She's never seen a television that size before.
She's never
which
seen
I
a
don't
television
believe.
before. It's like he comes in, and fair enough. I don't think I've ever noticed a television in that house before.
No, it's always on the wall,
Which is weird.
behind the camera.
Right? Yeah, but now you actually see.
The enormous TV and the enormous refrigerator,
Right? Yes.
which still isn't spitting out ice randomly.
No.
It's like a complete mistrick.
Yes. Yeah, it's Gemma and the TV.
Gem and the TV is our
Boring moment of the week.
and a plea to the Kate Brooks and the underlings that make decisions at Coronation Street. Please, 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 can we make Chesney's refrigerator sentient?
Such things have happened in soap operas before.
If it
Granted,
did happen in Coronation Street,
mostly in American ones.
that's a path that you can't stop going down once you start it.
An alien storyline would be fun. Where everybody thinks they're being invaded by aliens and we see them all on the red wreck kind of staring up into the sky.
Or Theo's secret is that he's a robot.
I could go for that. And his robot family is very, very Christian. And right wing.
Yeah, right-wing robot Christians.
Yes.
That's what we need in the show.
That's what the world needs more of. Right wing Christian robots. I mean, they're on the internet already. They might as well be walking around in real life.
Oh, I see what you did there. Very clever. I forgot to do the Twitter poll this week,
That's
which
fine.
you'll be pleased to hear.
Yes, because I always forget the list poll.
Oh no, it's because you hate the sting.
I do hate the sting as well.
But anyway,
Because the mess sounds like a dog.
we can't be influenced by those results. Not that we ever are, Helen. So,
No, even when they don't exist.
So what is your score out of 10 this week?
What did I do last week? A 4?
Like a 4.
I think I'd say a 4 again.
I think I'm 4 as well. I
Yeah.
didn't enjoy it.
No.
So much so, I have made several overtures to you since Thursday to not do the podcast this week.
It's true.
And that's unusual.
And that is unusual. For this particular podcast, yes. List of lists, not so much.
Well, we'll have a laissez-faire approach to list of lists.
Right. Yeah, because that's not
It's not time dependent.
right, whereas this is.
Yep. And that's more information than you need on that, so you're welcome.
Yes.
All right, let's wrap this one up then. This episode was brought to you with thanks to our friends of the podcast. That's Daisy, French Helen, Pickles, DT, Wendy, Noel, Canadian Helen, Christy, Shandy, English Victoria, Aurora Yvonne, Heather Westerfield, Russell Whiting, Jackie B, Brittany Porter, Laurie Anna, Tina, Stephen, Leah, Tara J, Fiona B, Canadian Jennifer, and Josephine O'Tingy. And I had to take 2 breaths through that.
Ooh.
If you've ever wanted to slap another cancer patient more than you wanted to slap Kev, write in to tell us about it. We're the Talk of the Street at gmail.com, and we're at Corrie Podcast on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Threads and Blue Sky. Or reach us the old-fashioned way, the Talk of the Street, P.O. Box 12, Eaton Rapids, Michigan 48827. You can shout me and Helen a coffee or become a friend of the podcast by heading to ko-fi.com, that's ko-fi.com/the talk of the street, or patreon.com/the talk of the street. Check out voggle.co.uk for links to our merch store, YouTube channel and blog. And if you're so inclined, please leave a rating and a review on the iTunes or your podcast provider of choice. And be sure to check out our pop culture sister podcast, The List.
We both hate Annie Hall.
Thanks for making it to the end of another episode. And we will be back next week with more
Talk of the Street.
The Talk of the Street.
Bye.
Cheerio.